Hey guys, this video is going to talk a little about this philosopher and Zen master, Dogen, and I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but he founded the Soto Zen school, I think. I was at the library the other week, and I don't know why, I just decided to pick up this book called Mystical Realist. It sounded interesting. It's a fat book. I have it over there. I'm too lazy to go pick it up, but it's interesting. I'll provide a link for the Amazon page. But it was written by a scholar who's basically documenting the philosophy of a very famous Zen master. And I wasn't particularly looking for this book. I just kind of bumped into it, kind of felt compelled to check it out. It seemed very... well, my first impression of the book was that it was written by a scholar who knew about Buddhism, and I was like, I can learn a lot about the Buddhist philosophy through this guy. And so I picked it up. And I was kind of surprised, because when I started to read this book, it was, yes, very scholarly, but the subject of the writing was Dogen, and this guy was pretty, he was a pretty creative individual with the Dharma and with reimagining the Buddhist teachings. For instance, he was able to, as many Vajrayana Buddhist schools did, take things that were originally just either one, tools for enlightenment, or two, things you wanted to avoid on your spiritual journey, and transform them into teachers. He would take things that not necessarily taboo, but things you didn't really focus on. For instance, written word, language, and scriptures. In Zen, the scriptures are much less focused, arguably, but there's a less of a focus on stories and scripture and written word as anything but a means to enlightenment, an instrument, a tool of enlightenment. And he kind of turned that around and sort of said, well, these sort of things are, yes, very useful, and they're tools, but they're also enlightenment in themselves. There is no thing that is not enlightenment. There is no thing that is not Buddha nature. All things are, even these scriptures. So why avoid them? Why avoid them? Why not see them for what they truly are? Why not use all things as a tool for enlightenment? Why not use all things as a teacher? For all things simply are part of what is. This ultimate, as you could call it, ultimate reality, ultimate truth. Everything is an expression of that, including delusion, which was his big thing, and I really thought that was interesting. So he compared all of life, waking and dreaming, as dreamlike. Everything is inextricably connected to ultimate reality, and that in that way everything is connected. There's nothing that will lead you away, not even delusion. Even delusion can be an instrument for enlightenment. And one of the famous things that he did was take the word for delusion, or something that's that one word for delusion, which means like, I guess is our equivalent to building castles in the sky. It's called flowers in the sky. And he kind of transformed that, and he said, oh, okay, so we're kind of creating something that's not really there. We're being very imaginative, but it's deluding us on our path. He said, no, not necessarily like that. These sky flowers are actually best understood through the concept of emptiness. Form emerging from emptiness. Flowers emerging from the sky. So all of a sudden, this, basic term for deluding ourselves now becomes a description of manifestation from emptiness. And delusion really is that. I mean, dreams are a manifestation from the void. All these things are just, a sort of a way to realize our fantasies are just as important of a teacher to what reality is as our um, supposed awakening truths and realities. They're connected. You can't have one without the other. Um, so this sort of thing, he applied to many different koans and many different writings and scriptures and teachings, and I just really appreciated it because I haven't seen that sort of creative and more fluid interpretation of Buddhist scriptures as much. It's much more imaginative and open to sort of seeing truth in all things, something that I would expect to hear from Krishnamurti, but from a Zen master. Interesting. So yeah, I recommend reading Dogen's work. I don't know if in context, reading the original work is heavy or not, but the way this author, I forgot the name, I'm sorry, but the way this author portrays Dogen is very interesting, and another aspect that I sort of connected to was the way he was talking about the wisdom of insentient beings. And he said something along the lines of, do not expect insentient beings to express the Dharma like sentient beings do. And at first I was like, is he saying what I think he's saying? And I realized this guy's talking about how there's, wisdom in all things, including non-sentient sentient existence, including rocks and mountains and the sky and clouds and planets, and also organic non-sentient things such as plants and other such life forms. So he's basically saying all things are a teacher, and he said don't expect these things to express what is the same way human beings do. We all express it, but they express it in a different way. So all things express what is, or ultimate reality, or I don't know, or whatever you would like to call it, including the grass beneath our feet, and the sky, and the mountains, and the solar systems, and the galaxies. This sort of thinking was very liberating. It was very liberating, very inclusive. As a teacher, it makes you much more open to the universe, really. And on that note, I guess I would like to say that this sort of thing is very, I guess you could say, compatible with modern forms of thinking, especially modern forms that focus more on the non-sentient aspects of the universe, especially modern science that is always talking about, oh, well, consciousness is really just these little particles interacting with this, and this is really just this, and life is really just these chemical reactions. For those of us who are worried, who understand what they're saying, but who also not necessarily need an alternative description, but just sort of want a better understanding of how this can be reconciled with Buddhist teaching. I mean, all things are expressions of ultimate reality, including the physical earth and the elements, and the physicist is just another type of Dharma teacher. The physicist who does not speak in the tongues of religion and Buddhism and all that is another kind of teacher, is another kind of expression of the Dharma. The Big Bang, cosmology, all of that is just part of what is, and so yeah, that's just part of what is. There's no need to say they're missing anything. Of course, they are, because if they claim that they have everything, it's kind of silly. But never mind that. I mean, all things are expressions of Dharma, including the cosmologist, including Richard Dawkins, including Sam Harris and Daniel Dennett, and Christopher Hitchens is an expounder of the Dharma. And I say this very loosely, of course. I don't mean it in the same way that a Zen master is an expounder of the Dharma, but in the way Dogen is saying, in the way that everything can be a teacher. So, I think I'm going to end there, and yeah, that's Dogen for you, and I'll provide a link. I hope you enjoy his stuff. It's very interesting. Thanks for listening.